This meeting to order. And it's time to call the city council meeting to order, please. Ms. Rhodes, roll call.
Yes, sir. Mr. Austin?
Here.
Mr. Blankenship?
Here.
Mr. Akers?
Here.
Mr. Beacon? Here. Mr. Smith? Here. Mr. Reinierson?
Here.
Mr. Taylor?
Here.
Sir, you have four.
Thank you, ma'am. Ryan, would you lead us in prayer and pledge, please?
Let's pray. Father, we come to you tonight, and I thank you so much for our wonderful city. I thank you for this wonderful weather. It's just been so great to see people out and about, and pray for an early spring. God, we just thank you for the privilege of being here tonight. And I thank you for our first responders and those who are here to be sworn in and those who are here to be honored for their service. I pray they would feel honored, and thank you for their commitment and service to the city of Franklin. I thank you tonight for the council. I pray that you give them wisdom for the decisions they make, give them the ability to properly think through all the aspects of the decisions that are made, be with the different agenda items, Lord, that are going to affect the economy. And I pray for good decisions that are continue to bless our city. And I thank you for the privilege it is to live here and to serve here. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, again, thank you all for attending tonight. We're going to start off with swearing in of the new police officer, Jacob Maskingale. So Jacob's here, right? All right, Jacob, raise your right hand. I, Jacob Maskingale, a member of the City of Franklin Police Department,
I, Jacob Maskingale, a member of the Franklin City Police Department,
do solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America
do solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and I will faithfully, impartially, and honorably
and I will faithfully, impartially, and honorably
discharge my duties according to the law
discharge my duties according to the law
and the best of my ability.
and the best of my ability.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Everybody struggles with that, don't feel bad. Just don't stick it.
You can pull it out.
Do I have to do everything? There you go. Absolutely. All right.
Ready?
Okay, next, we have Mr. Captain Jerry Anderson. Mr. Anderson is honoring 25 years of service, Jerry Anderson, for outstanding achievement, hard work, and dedicated service to the Franklin Fire Department from January 5th, 1995 to January 5th, 2020. Congratulations and thank you, Jerry. I think we had something for Officer Mears that wasn't on the agenda, but we need to recognize.
Yeah, we've already done this in a private setting at the PD, but we just want to recognize Ryan Mears for his promotion to sergeant. Some time ago, Ryan took that promotion, kind of behind the scenes has been doing that job and took on that role for free. I know the folks downtown really miss Ryan. We talked about it today, and we appreciate all your hard work, and we wanted to get you in front of the public and recognize you. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Ryan was our first downtown officer that we implemented last year, and he done a great job and set the bar pretty high, so thank you, Ryan. Okay, Lieutenant Andrew Tames. So Andrew has been just after lieutenant place, and I will say that I think a lot of Mr. Andrew Tames, and so thanks, sir. Okay, I, Andrew Tames, here, wait, you want to put it on the phone? I, Andrew Tames, hereby, I, Andrew Tames, have been promoted to the position of lieutenant
I, Andrew Tames, have been promoted to the position of lieutenant
in the City of Franklin Fire Department.
in the City of Franklin Fire Department.
I swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
I swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana.
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana.
I will obey the laws of the United States,
I will obey the laws of the United States,
the State of Indiana,
the State of Indiana,
and the rules, regulations of the Franklin Fire Department,
and the rules and regulations of the Franklin Fire Department,
the policies, procedures, and practices of the City of Franklin Employment Handbook.
the policies, procedures, and practices of the City of Franklin Handbook.
That's good. That I will obey all the lawful orders of my superior officers
That I will obey all the lawful orders of my superiors
and to faithfully discharge the duties in said office to the best of my ability.
Sorry, so, one more time. Faithfully discharge
the duties of the said officers to the best of my ability.
Yeah, duties as a set officer, that's my ability.
Congratulations. All right, thank you. Thank you. I want to thank all the first responders. So Andrew's an expert at this. If now's the time to leave, if you want to leave.
Yes.
Thank you for all your hard work, and thank you for police department's work last week. The task at hand. You can't hear? You may turn that over. How's that? Is that better? Is that better? Okay, I think we can go ahead and get started with the rest of it. We have one more under announcements, presentations. The City Council you remember last week, appointed former Councilman Joe Abbott back to the Planning Department, the Plan Commission. And we found out by checking the statutes, there has to be a member of the current city council. So it's open to the city council to appoint a Plan Commission member from this board.
Mayor, I am pleased to make a motion that we appoint Chris Reinerson for the Plan Commission.
Second.
So, okay, we have a motion and a second for Chris. Is there any other motions for anybody else that would be interested? Hearing none, we're going to close that. So that makes a pretty easy vote. Chris, for
Sounds good to me.
So we have a motion and a second for Chris Reinerson to represent the Plan Commission, to be on the Plan Commission representing the City Council. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Congratulations, Chris.
Thank you.
Is there any other announcements, presentations, or public comment? I would just like to recognize that we do have some members off the Mayor's Youth Council here, so thank you guys for coming. We do have a long meeting tonight, so maybe the next meeting you come to, you can kind of explain the projects that you've already done and what you're going to be doing in the spring if you want. So, thank you guys. You're very instrumental in our community, and I appreciate you being here. Okay, is there any other announcements, presentations, public comments? Hearing none, we're going to move on to the consent agenda.
Move to approve the minutes from January 6th. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, I think, by Mr. Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll go to other business. Need a motion to read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Mr. Eggers. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item number 1, public hearing, and we can't act on this. Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 20-01, the budgetary ordinance repealing and replacing budgetary ordinance number 19-12, fixing and authorizing the payment of certain salaries and appointed officers and employees for the year 2020, Civil City, Community Development Director Crystal Linky.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, for council members, reminder, this is a budgetary ordinance, so it requires two meetings. We introduced it last meeting, and is now ready for your action tonight, if you're so inclined. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you. I believe we had the introduction, like Lynn said, at the last meeting, and so this is the public hearing portion, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
And if you just want to recap, Krista, what it was about for some new audience.
Sure, we have a new person in the Community Development Department, Dana Monson, as the Community Development Specialist, and so there was $1,000 in the longevity line item from the previous employee that we're requesting to transfer to the salary for our new employee.
So with that being said, I think at this time, before we get to questions off the council, it is open to public hearing. So if anybody from the public wants to ask a question, now's the time. Hearing none, we will close public hearing. So now I need questions from the council. Hearing none, we're ready for a motion.
I'll move for approval of the ordinance.
Number 20-01.
Yes.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Ms. McGinnis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That gets us to new business. We also need a motion, new business to read by title only.
Move. Second.
Second by Mr. Reinerson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, under new business, item number 1, Common Council Resolution number 20-01, waiving the non-compliance with tax abatement compliance requirements for two forming systems doing business as Overton Industries, Reservation 2016-21, Community Development Director Crystal Linky.
Thank you. This was previously heard by our Economic Development Commission. at their January meeting, and this has to do with a real property abatement for Overton Industries. You might recall that they have done a considerable building expansion over the last couple of years at that location, and so this is a somewhat complicated one. When a new building is built or an addition is built, Overton received a notice of reassessment due to that new portion of the building, but they received it in June of 2018. And so we had already done compliance for the year because compliance reports are due to the county by May 15th. But because of the timing of the project, which we're still kind of working that out with the county and the auditor and the assessor's office, but it was a timing issue that they actually had their increased assessed value for their 18 K-19 taxes. And they should have received then the first year of the abatement because it was an 80% increase. It was a 8% completion, which increased their taxes. And so they want the first year of their abatement to be on that 8% completed building because their taxes increased considerably. Instead of the following year, when it was 100%, in the past, we've been able to say when an abatement can and can't start, whether it's the first year of a 100% assessed value. We very rarely run into these where there's a partial assessment and the company wants to use the first year of the abatement on a partial assessment, but because this was 80% completed, it's kind of a timing thing. And we're actually, we have a meeting set up with the county later this week to talk about kind of standardizing this procedure so this doesn't continue to happen for companies. Another factor of this is this building took probably 8 months longer to build than they expected it to. So the completion, the original completion date had been what they estimated it to be. This also wouldn't have happened, and they would have gotten the abatement the first year. We didn't ask them to fill out a compliance report for this year because we couldn't foresee the future that they were going to get this 80% assessment. So there's a lot of parts and pieces to this one. Ken, if you have anything to add, go ahead.
Well, I mean, nothing other than the EDC, we reviewed it like Krista said, and it was, council had told us that, we hadn't done anything wrong. The city hadn't done anything incorrectly or improper. So basically, we are helping Overton by doing this, if we approve it. So it was approved at the EDC level to help Overton with this situation.
Council, you're not extending the abatement, you're just not giving it, so they're okay with just taking it, they're losing 20%.
They are.
Is it normal that the assessor's office goes and reassesses when it's only 80% complete?
Very uncommon.
I thought it was
Very rare.
I think it was just so close to being completed and had gone on for 2 years that they just, this is the first that this has happened. One important thing I do want to note is that because they saw this increase on their tax bill that they weren't expecting, they thought the abatement would be 100% for the first year. They have been working on this to try to resolve this for months, and we've been working with them on it as well. They have not paid, they paid the taxes that were due the amount from the previous year. They didn't pay the increase for the addition until this got settled. So it's not like we've had previous requests from companies for waivers of non-compliance. They've paid their taxes and they've been a substantial amount of money. When we grant a waiver, that money has to come back from all the taxing entities that it's been dispersed to. This amount is about $25,000 that we're talking about, and they didn't pay it until this got settled. So there isn't going to be any refunding of funds or anything like that. It's just, they're actually going to have to pay a 10% penalty.
Did they bring it to our attention?
They did bring it to our attention.
But they will pay the penalty.
There's no way around that. But the waiver would allow us to grant the first year of the abatement to use. What they'll do is issue a corrected tax bill and then they can pay that exact amount. The only way that we would know to do this, and this is mainly why we're meeting with the county, is the companies get these notices of reassessment. We don't get those. So according to the county, if something like this happens, the companies have to let us know, and then we would have to actually do the compliance within 60 days of that reassessment. So instead of having compliance reports at the beginning of every year, like the forms state, we could be doing compliance reports any month at any time. And we have never in history of tax abatements done that. So.
I'll move for approval of compliance of Common Council Resolution 20-01.
Second.
Second by Mr. Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. This next one's Krista's also. Common Council Resolution number 20-02, a declaratory resolution designing an economic revitalization area for GDI Holdings LLC. It's EDC 2020-02.
So this is a little different for our new because it's not ERA designation yet, for EDA designation. So would you mind just overview the process for our new
Sure.
please?
So in order to grant a tax abatement, the property has to be designated an economic revitalization area, which is an ERA. So that's how the Indiana code reads. It has to be designated. There's a declaratory resolution that is before you tonight, which you can review and act on tonight. Then before the next council meeting, which I believe is March 2nd, there is a confirming resolution, which is Resolution 2020-03. That has to be advertised 10 days in advance of that, and then there's a public hearing that will occur at that council meeting. And once that is approved, then we can act on the third resolution, which is actually granting the tax abatement, which is Resolution 2020-04. And so tonight's meeting is the first resolution of 2020-02, and then at the March 2nd meeting, we'll do the confirming resolution and the actual tax abatement resolution.
And the 2002 sets it for a confirming resolution hearing at our next meeting, but you can't pass 2002. It just won't be effective for the others until they do a confirming resolution. A lot of hoops.
Yes. And the reason that this hasn't already been, all of the Franklin Tech Park, which this is adjoining to, has been designated an ERA, I think since early 2000. This piece of property was just officially annexed as of January 1st of this year. So you can't designate an economic revitalization area outside of your city limits, and so it's just a timing issue.
I know this is, it's related to it. I just wanted to bring this to everybody's attention. We're talking about tax abatement for the next meeting.
Yes.
And Krista actually ran the math, asked her to do this. If this field of GDI is here and they're liable to take off running whenever I tell them this. However, if that stays a vacant field for the next 10 years, our portion of taxes is $20,874. So when GDI builds this building, and we're off estimated numbers that other buildings that we've worked with, over a 10-year period, we will get $2,120,000 in taxes. And over a 20-year period, we would only be getting $41,000. In the 21-year period, if it's just a building sitting there vacant, it would be $6 million with taxes. So please don't run, okay? So anyway, that is coming down the road, but I know there's always a controversy of why do you get tax abatements, and that's the reason why.
And I did include that in your packet for the council members to look at. I think when people hear tax abatement, the mayor has explained this several times as well. The first year is 100% abated. The second year is, in this case, it's 95%, then 80, then 65, and so forth until it's down to 5%. So by the 10th year, they're paying 95% of their taxes. It's not no taxes for 10 years. It's phasing in taxes so that over 10 years, they're still paying $2.1 million in taxes with a 10-year tax abatement.
And those 10 years will pass.
Yes,
Oh, we know that, right, Bob?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
So,
So a little bit about this company. This is a shell building. We do have a representative here, and Mac McNaught is here, and Mike Sheik is here from GDI if you have any questions. But they are looking at, originally it was a 400,000 square foot building. Now I'm hearing maybe it's gonna be double that size. And so there aren't any jobs or salaries associated with it at this phase, just like when we did the Sunbeam building immediately west, because this is a speculative building. They don't have a permanent tenant yet. Once they have a tenant, that tenant will come in and apply for an additional abatement for the build out and for any personal property that may be eligible. And both of those abatements will be tied to jobs and investment amount and salaries and wages. So we don't have that information yet. This is also used as a marketing tool to attract a tenant, that having an abatement in place, obviously is something that they will use to secure a tenant in this.
And just one other thing, Krista, GDI did agree to the economic development fee.
They did, yes.
That's different than what was in your packets, because the presentation I got, that's why I asked them there.
Yeah.
They did agree to the economic development.
Yes, they did.
this was, Mayor, and Kristen knows that she was there at the Economic Development Commission meeting, that it was a unanimous decision by the EDC to approve it.
Okay, so I think we're ready for is there any more discussion?
Is it a public hearing?
Not yet, that will be our confirming resolution.
So we need a motion approving the resolution with the understanding it'll go into the next meeting.
Yes, what you were moving to approve is 2002,
2002 is the
which is the
declaratory.
declaratory resolution designating this as an economic development area. And that's what you're approving. Then you'll have a hearing next meeting in March confirming that designation and then acting upon the request when you make those two things.
I feel like I'm dominating the motion, but I will make another motion to approve the Common Council Resolution 2002. Of course, that's the declaratory resolution.
Correct. And pursuant to the requirements of the statute, Krista, we will then publish this in the newspaper at least 10 days prior, and you've got that covered. Set up for that.
With Jane's help.
Okay, thank you.
I second the motion.
Second by Mr. Eggers. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. We'll move on. Thank you, Krista. Next one's yours too. Common Council Resolution 20-05, a resolution granting tax abatement for B2 Life Sciences Community Development Director.
So this is for B2F Life Sciences, which is directly across the street. They are in the process of expanding with some of their clients, and they are going to purchase some additional, in this case, it's research and development equipment, $882,000 worth of research and development equipment that they would use at their existing location. And their property, when they moved in there, they received, because had been a vacant building for so long, they received a vacant building deduction on the real estate. So this is very different than that. The last year for that was 2019, so that is expired, and now they're applying for a personal property abatement for this research and development equipment. And so this is tied to their investment amount, obviously, and then the number of jobs and salaries and wages. And I just wanted to point out, they had originally thought that it would take them 5 to 10 years to get up to 40 employees. And at 3 years, we are at 40 employees. And they are looking for additional space to expand their operations in Franklin. Additional freezer space and lab space. They're going to keep this location and then just do some expansion. So they're growing much quicker than they had originally anticipated. And there you can see in the report some of the average hourly wages. They're almost double the county averages, close to $40 an hour is their average, plus benefits, those kinds of things. So We've just been really pleased, and I know the ABC was really pleased with the progress that they have made and the investment amount in the property that they've made, and just they're doing so well. So the recommendation was for a 7-year abatement with a 5% economic development fee. And I've included in your packet information on what the taxes would look like for 3-year, 5-year, and 7-year, just to give you a comparison on the length.
So as Kristen mentioned at the Economic Development Commission meeting, this was approved for a 7-year, but we're going to be treading into some unknown territory for equipment. Traditionally, we've done 3-year, 5-year on typical investment like this. And so I want the council to know that the 7-year abatement, I think this will be the very first, if we choose to go down that path, to the recommendation of the Economic Development Commission, which we do not have to do. We can make it a 5-year, 3-year, whatever we choose as a board here. So I just want everyone to know that if we approve the 7-year, it will be the first in the city for less than $1 million investment on First property. So I just want everyone to know that. And the owner of the lab was not against a 5-year deal. So we had a very long, wacky meeting that meeting, and anyway, I think, Krista, initially what they had asked for was a 7-year, and that's what the Economic Development Commission granted. But repeating myself, we have not done that before.
Krista, they pay full real estate taxes, don't they?
They do, they will starting in 2020.
Okay. So this is a little bit unusual in that it's a business that got assistance through the FDC. It was a really TIP money that got placed into that.
5 grants and then
And so.
They've done very well with the city.
Well, what it's done is that it's increased assessed
the
value.
assessed value has gone from, I think it was 70 or 80,000 to over 2 million.
Yeah, it kept a piece of property from becoming a parking lot.
It's beautiful.
We had many debates about it, Bob.
Well, we had to do the redevelopment commission, but you know, my understanding is they, as far as hiring and what they were paying in wages, they've exceeded what they indicated they would do.
Yes,
And I am thrilled that they went out and invested a lot of personal, I don't know where the funding came from. It might have been their own assets, it might have been bank loans, but they put a lot of money of their own in that property. And it, like I said, it saved it from another fate probably.
And we did do a facade matching grant over there for the exterior, which was 50,000, and then there was a $250,000 grant. I could be remembering that incorrectly, but they've invested over $1.5 million of their own funds, and then that $250,000, 200 of that is after they're paying back. So
I guess my point is, there's been a lot of there was TIP money put into this, but ultimately it's come back in taxes that are not TIP that goes to everybody. I mean,
right, because the downtown is part of the integrated TIP district, but it is not an allocation area, which is where increment taxes are collected. So we can spend funds here, but we don't collect funds here. So all of their property taxes are going, that they pay will be going to all the taxing entities.
So the difference between the 5-year and the 7-year is, about $8,000 from what I'm seeing, Krista. Is that correct?
It's not a huge amount.
It's not, we're not talking the bulk of the money.
It is, it's about a difference of about $8,000.
For purposes of process, unlike the prior one you just heard, this is already a designated area.
Yes. So
So if the council is so inclined, you may act upon this request.
Before we make a motion, though, we don't have to do this, but I would like to open it up to public hearing. If someone wants to speak on behalf of 3, 5, or 7, now's the time to do that. So, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. So, it's up to council to make a motion.
I'll move for approval of the Resolution 2020-05 for the personal property abatement, tax abatement for B2S Life Sciences.
In the year seven-year maybe?
And in the 7-year abatement period.
With an economic development fee of 5%.
Economic development, 5%, anything else.
That's a good motion.
Well, that's myself.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second by Ms. McGinnis. Mrs. McGinnis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you, Krista.
Thank you.
That gets us to the next one. Common Council Ordinance number 20-01, amending the rates and charges for the use of sewage works for the city of Franklin. That is presented by me. I would like to say that we're going to have a presentation by Westler Engineering, Peters Municipality, and Steve Watson, attorney on the, and this is for introduction only, the attorney for the ordinance. So I've been asked, so why are we considering increasing the wastewater utility rate for the first time since 2004? Think about what I just said, since 2004. And based on a study conducted by Peters Municipal Consulting, that shows that more revenue is needed to perform necessary maintenance and bring services to property that is targeted for industrial and residential development. I know that and I know everybody up here, all of us would take increases in rates paid by our residents and businesses very seriously, but this is needed to ensure the continued operation of the sewer utility and will allow the city to welcome more homes and businesses, which will increase the tax base and bring in more ratepayers to share the future expenses. The expansion of the sewer system is necessary to continue our intentional growth. And even after the change takes effect, Franklin will operate a cost-efficient system and still have the lowest monthly bills compared to surrounding communities, which is an example of our commitment to remain an affordable, thriving community to raise family and open a business. A residential bill at $4,000 would be about $27 after the increase. Most homes in the city now pay $18 per month. And the city sewer rates were last increased, and we'll say it again, in 2004. The proposed increase is comparable to about a 3% increase per year since 2004. The residential bill at 4,000 gallons would remain the lowest among surrounding communities after the increase. The study showed us this. The utility has more than 8,000 customers. There are existing sewer lines across the city that will be relined, which is necessary to maintain and keep the stormwater from seeping into the system. Maintenance work will also be performed at the sewer utility plant, and expanding the system on the east side and west side of the city will open the doors for expanded development. There's up to $50 million in industrial investment that is being discussed for the east side of the 65 in an area that does not have sewer service at this time. And future businesses will still pay for the infrastructure to connect to the sewer system. We're just putting that infrastructure there for them to be able to tie into it. West of US 31, expansion will increase the system's capacity for future residential development that is currently not available on certain sites. So with that being said, we have a good presentation put together tonight. I think we're going to have the engineers explain the system needs from Westwood and our own city engineer, Mark Richards.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Gary Rustin, Senior Project Manager with Western Engineering. Also with me tonight, Jim Kovacs, Senior Project Manager, and Madison Trumner, Project Engineer, has been with us for 3 weeks. Some of the information we'll cover in this presentation is provide you some background, talk about the proposed East Side Interceptor, the existing US 31 Interceptor, and Youngs Creek Lift Station, the proposed West Side Interceptor, the sewer rehabilitation projects, and recent and current projects in the wastewater treatment plant. Background, really the only critical piece of background is the 2013 comprehensive plan that the city prepared. That shows the long-term land needs that came out of that study, projecting, anticipating which way the city might grow and what types of land needs are expected. Next slide. These are the two areas that we focused on. The east side interceptor is currently in design. It serves this area of, I think it's noted as light manufacturing. It's east of 65 and north and south of State Road 44. There's an immediate need to serve that area in the expansion of interstate warehousing. We're expanding to the south. We're putting in a building that will not be able to be served by the existing sewer. There is an existing sewer that crosses under I-65. It's 30 inches. It's a big sewer. Pat on the back to whoever designed that, put that in, because that's going to be able to service a large area east of 65. And there's also some property owners that have contacted the city or had an engineer contact their city interested in developing several parcels out in that area. So the proposed east side interceptor starts on the north end, connecting to the existing Jim Black lift station. That lift station currently serves the Franklin East Side Business Park. From there it goes to the east, turns south, and pretty much parallels Amity Ditch, all the way down south of County Road 50 south. Turns east, and there'll be a new regional lift station located along 550 south, or 550 east, south of County Road 50 south. There's going to be a regional lift station. It's going to serve, anticipated to serve the entire area that's shown in the blue dashed line. And that extends beyond the pink or purple area that's shown for light manufacturing. But it just happens to be, based on the depth of the sewer, what it's able to serve in the future. The east side interceptor is approximately 13,000 feet of 12-inch to 21-inch sewer with the new east side regional lift station. Opinion of probable cost is $4.6 million. The anticipated schedule, right now, like I mentioned, we're currently about 30% design. Goal is to wrap up design in May, start on permitting and easements in April, hopefully have those in hand and completed by July 2020. Advertise the project in August, take bids in September, get contractual documents all signed and issued by October, start construction to be done in June of 2021. Jumping to the west side of the city. That map there shows in red, the red line is the existing US 31 interceptor. It starts way up at the northern end of the city, parallels US 31, and ends up at the Youngs Creek lift station, which is located just south side of Youngs Creek on the east side of US 31. From there, it comes directly to the wastewater treatment plant. Go ahead. So US 31 interceptor flows to the Youngs Creek lift station. It's the largest lift station to the wastewater pump station, located in the city. And it serves pretty much the entire area west of US 31, about 1/3 of the city. Both the US 31 interceptor and the Youngs Creek lift station are at capacity. During heavier rain events, the pumps can't keep up and the sewer will back up. So a new interceptor and lift station is needed for future growth to the west and southwest of the city. So the proposed west side interceptor starts up north, Brannigan Road, runs around the high school, and basically parallels Young Ditch all the way down to the south part of the city, close to US 31. It would have a new lift station located there and pump directly to the wastewater treatment plant. Some of the benefits of this route and why it was decided upon is we can take two existing lift stations out of service at the north end, the Brannigan lift station and the Commerce Drive lift station that serves the high school. We'll possibly be able to take two more lift stations out of service, those being the Cumberland Trails lift station and Country View lift station. Those could be connected possibly by gravity to the new interceptor. If not, then we run a new force main, keeping the lift stations in service, but discharging them to the new interceptor. So the west side interceptor is about 25,000 feet of 12-inch to 21-inch sewer with a new south side regional lift station. Opinion of probable cost is $11.5 million. Anticipated project schedule. PER stands for Preliminary Engineering Report. Begin that in April. It's been discussed to pursue funding through the Indiana Finance Authority for a state revolving fund loan. It's a low interest loan issued by them where you can get lower interest rates. Due to the size of this project, that would provide a pretty considerable savings. Design, start in April, finish November 2020, go for permitting easements October of this year through January of 2021. Do bidding and bonds February to May of next year, with construction in May 2021 through April 2022. So that project's over 2 years out if we start pretty much in April. On the sewer, Mayor mentioned sewer rehabilitation project. The wastewater utility, the Department of Public Works, has been very proactive in repairing structural deficiencies and reducing wet weather infiltration into the sanitary sewers. Historically, for quite some time, they've set aside $500,000 a year to do sewer lining projects. Photos you see there, the top one is before, bottom one's after. We have sewer videos, and this is not Franklin, this is just an example we pulled from another project. But the top video, right up at the bottom, there's water bubbling up through a leaky joint, pretty considerable amount. And then at the very top of the pipe, there's a pretty significant crack. So those are the kind of higher priorities we target with sewer lining projects. The bottom photo is a new cured in place pipe. It's essentially a new pipe within an old pipe. You pull it in, it's kind of a felt material, folded. You pull it through the pipe segment, they run either hot water or steam, depending on the contractor, and it expands that and basically cures it to a plastic pipe. It's pretty neat technology. The problem the utilities run into the last couple of years is a $500,000 project is small nowadays, and they've not been able to get bidders interested in the project because it's just not big enough. There's so much work out there. Next slide. So the proposed bond or rates are intended to cover just a little under $3 million worth of funding for a larger sewer lining project. Rather than wait 6 years to get $3 million, there's a lot of sewer rehab that needs to be done now and continue. And it'll take a good chunk of money to do that. So that'll accomplish quite a bit with a little under $3 million. The DPW will continue to set aside $500,000 a year to continue to be proactive on future sewer lining projects. Just briefly want to cover a couple of the recent and current wastewater treatment plant projects. All these have been completed or will be completed and paid for out of city funds on hand. These are not anticipated or proposed to be paid for under a sewer rate increase. Recently completed new biosolids feed pumps and plant drain pumps for $190,000. Replaced 4 raw sewage pumps for $200,000. Some of the current projects active right now. New pumps for the Youngs Creek lift station. Those are anticipated to be delivered here in the middle of the month, hopefully be installed by the end of the month. $200,000. Project currently under construction at the treatment plant. New chemicals phosphorus removal to meet the new discharge permit for phosphorus. And a new ultraviolet disinfection system, $2.55 million. And a gravity belt thickener and belt filter press rebuild. These are equipment that these pieces of equipment are used to process the biosolids and sludge generated by the treatment plant. A bid package is currently being prepared for those for $800,000, or anticipated cost $800,000. One item I skipped over on the west side interceptor, by taking those at least 2, possibly 4 lift stations off of the US 31 interceptor and pumping to the new interceptor, that's basically freeing up capacity in the US 31 interceptor and Youngs Creek lift station. So there's still quite a few areas of development within the service area of the US 31 interceptor that are not currently developed. So by moving some of those flows, wastewater flows to the new interceptor, it's freeing up capacity within the US 31 interceptor for future development. So hopefully that gives you a good background. I tried to hurry through it because it's a pretty long presentation, but hopefully it gives you a lot of good background information, information to the need of the project and benefit.
Yes, I got a question. The west side lift station now, is that the one near Blue Heron Park? Is that what that is?
It is.
Okay. And is that one being taken out or is that one being replaced?
Have to defer to Jim on that.
The two pumps that he just mentioned, the 200,000 are coming in mid-month, are dropping into that lift station. And then that will bring it back up to capacity of where it was originally designed.
Okay.
If you've elected to fund the project for the western interceptor, some of the flows that currently go into it will no longer go into it, they'll bypass and go around to the new.
Some of that will be diverted then. So the one there near Blue Heron Park is at capacity now?
That's Young's Creek.
That's
Young
the Young
Street,
Street
and that
station.
handles everything on the west side.
Yes.
And we're currently still building homes on the west side, right?
You are.
And we're already at capacity?
Yes.
You are.
Oh, yeah, good idea to keep building homes in this.
Well, 1 or 2 homes is okay, a couple hundred.
I mean, we got the one out on Airport Road,
You've approved phase one of that project, which is 55 lots, but that is actually a 457 lot subdivision. So you have an immediate need to eliminate some of the water getting to the Youngs Creek station. Part of it will be eliminated by drying up the sewer with the lining projects, but not all of it that you need for the whole undeveloped property.
I guess my point is, there's a lot of construction still going on the west side, and we're already at capacity, so
Yes, sir.
it's not just an east side project, it's really to benefit the people that live on the west side of 31. Not just new construction, but anything that exists like Canary Creek or something like that.
Any growth out that way is anticipated to be mostly residential. Any growth at all needs additional sewer service.
And that's now. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And now, as Gary just alluded to, is 2 years from now starting right now.
Okay. Somebody explained, I was at a meeting about this recently, and somebody explained if you get a capacity and you can't discharge it, then it starts backing up, and that's not a good thing.
When it backs up, you probably don't want to know where it goes.
Right, okay.
And I just want to add, it is as a utility, this is a city-owned utility, just like any utility company. It's our responsibility to get the infrastructure there that the builders will pay to come and hook onto this. So it's not like we're funding a builder, but we should be providing that infrastructure to get the builder what they need to start paying bills and help pay back that infrastructure. And I also want to add, we've been at several meetings about this, and quite honestly, we've been talking about this, I know, for 5, 6, 7 years. You know, I've been around quite a while, and I was with Mayor McGinnis on the Board of Works, and Rick, you've done a great job at DPW, and we've just gotten to the point, this is it, you know, and we've talked about it a long time that we were going to get here, and now we're here. So this isn't something we just dreamed up overnight, a project. This is something that we've been talking about a long time.
Correct.
And Gary, you've been in on those discussions
Correct.
all along over the years.
Now, if we don't do this, is there anybody from the state or anybody else, federal people can come down on us, or?
Not until you start having basement backups and sanitary sewer overflows, meaning.
Well, nobody would ever
coming
complain
out
about
of
that, I
hand.
don't think, would they? Okay, all right.
That's when you'll get in trouble. That's when the state will come down and.
So we're trying to be proactive,
Yeah.
trying to get this done now then.
If you get mandated like other communities have, you have very little say in what gets done. And so you want
Could end up on a sewer ban.
You always,
No sewer
always want to avoid
buildings,
that.
which means no new businesses, no new houses.
So I just want to say that this is introduction only. We will have a public hearing. But if you have any questions tonight that you want to ask, please feel free to do that. So when you get back to other ones, next meeting, we're going to give maybe a presentation pretty similar to this one, again, to refresh everybody's memory.
Will there be a separate public meeting on this, or just
It will be at that meeting.
at that meeting, okay?
Okay, so I think that gets us to, if there's no question, then Mr. Watson. Or Jim or Steve next.
I was planning to present next, but
Go ahead.
happy to
Go
defer.
ahead. Go ahead.
Good evening, council. I'm Stephen Watson with William Barrett and Wachowski, and I'll try to be brief here. I'm here to explain the legal requirements for a rate increase for your city utility sewer rates. And in general, you as the council have the authority to do that. And to do it, you have to adopt an ordinance that makes the change in your rates. On your screen, probably in front of you, you have the proposed ordinance that has been provided to you as a draft. And it outlines the statutory requirements, which are essentially that you adopt just and equitable rates. And those just and equitable rates by statute are those that maintain the sewer works and your operations in a physical and financial condition necessary to render adequate and efficient service. And that must be sufficient to do the following four things: pay all of your expenses for operating the sewage works, pay for any debt service obligations you have, provide funds for working capital, and also provide funds for improving and replacing your sewage works. And what you've been proposed here kind of walks through those requirements. You are in the ordinance section number 1. It reiterates what I just stated to you as a statutory requirement and makes a specific finding by the council that these are rates that do match the statutory criteria. Section 2 is the actual section that amends your city code to establish the new rates. They're in essentially 3 parts. The first is the volume rate on a per 1,000 gallon rate. It is increased to $5.43. Then you have the second component, which is the base rate component, which is tied to the size of the connection, and you have a schedule there. And the third is the unmetered water user, and that's, of course, for those who aren't on your water system. They have wells, and so it's difficult to measure how much volume they're actually using, and that gets a flat per month rate of $39.78. If it happens to be a non-single family residence that's on a well, the utility and the code revision, actually this substance is not changing. It's always been this way for anything that's a non-residential single family connector who does not have water connection. You basically compare it to something similar that is connected to your water system, and you charge it similarly. You are required to first introduce the ordinance, which we're doing tonight. Secondly, you have to have a public hearing on a separate day, and in order to have a public hearing, you have to give public notice, which is required to be in the newspaper at least 10 days in advance, as well as mailed to any of your customers who are outside the city limits. And your utility has identified who those are, and it's a relatively small number, maybe about 20, and we'll obviously take care of making sure that they are mailed notice of public hearing. The public hearing is currently scheduled to occur on March 2nd, council meeting. And once you've had your public hearing, you are then in a position to be able to adopt the new rates to that ordinance. And it's designed, if we were to scroll back up to I think it's section 2, it starts by saying that the new rates are designed to be implemented, to be effective with the billings that occur in May and are due at the end of May 31, I believe it is. And so that establishes the time frame. Your rates can be based on a multitude of factors, but in your case, what's important to recognize and understand is that you are permitted to have a flat charge per connection. You're permitted to have a charge that's based on water volume usage, and you're permitted to have a connection charge as well, and based on the size of the connection. Those are 3 key things that are in place in your situation. I think that covers the basics of what's legally required and what's in your ordinance. If you have any questions, I'm happy to ask. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Jeff Peters, who has prepared the rate study on which these rates, proposed rates, are based. And I would note that though it's not statutorily required that you have a rate study to be defensible or put yourself in the best position possible to defend those rates in the event of a challenge, you're best off to have a professional rate study done. That has been done. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Watson? Thank you. Mr. Jeff Peters, thank you, sir.
Thank you all for the opportunity to be here and help as always. Little history on your sewage utility. Over several years in the past, you have issued bonds, and as part of your rate structure, you have made principal and interest payments on those bonds as they've come forward. A couple years ago, one of your biggest segments of your outstanding bonds paid off. When those paid off, you begin to accumulate some cash in the sewage works funds. And as Gary described, there are certain capital projects that were undertaken within the last couple of years with cash on hand. You have one outstanding bond issue that will pay off, I believe, at the beginning of 21 or 22, but you have sufficient cash on hand in a debt service reserve fund. Whenever we issue revenue bonds, to help with the security to the bondholders, we put aside a certain amount of revenue that we don't touch until we get to the last payment or two of the payoff of the bond issue. So there's a few $100,000 that was statutorily set aside 15 or 20 years ago, probably, when the bonds were issued, to make these last couple of payments for the existing bonds. So in the structure I'm going to show you today, all the debt's been stripped out of it because the cash is essentially there for it to be paid off. So you're just today on an operating basis with these capital projects that you funded with current cash in the sewer operating fund. So if you could go to the table of contents, and I'm just going to give you a thumbnail and we'll walk through these in particular. First thing that we do is we look at a current data set, and the data set we used was from August the 29th, and we create a live revenue model under the current rates. Then we looked at, for 2018, what were the actual operating and maintenance expenses when we strip out all the capital, and then we adjusted those to get to what would be a current 2020 operational maintenance expense. So we added basically 2 years of inflation at 3%. And as Gary mentioned, there is currently a phosphorus project at the wastewater treatment plant. Based on the utility, there will be increased supply costs of about $60,000 a year to implement that program. So we added that to the operating cost as well. Third thing that we do is add back in the capital projects. All the projects that Gary defined, we put together a $19 million bond issue. It will potentially, as Gary described, be multiple bond issues. One probably for the east side interceptor, as those needs are immediate. The second part through a state revolving fund or a subsidized loan, which will give you cheaper interest costs for the bigger portion on the west side, where bond funds won't be needed until probably into 21. Then on the, once we add back in the capital, we can determine how much money it is that we need to raise in order to fund both the capital and the operating budget. From there, we go back into that live revenue model and adjust it in order to get the amount of revenue that we need. And one quick explanation on the revenue that comes in that Stephen touched on. There are basically two components. One is a base rate, and that base rate is currently $5.57 for a residential hookup. That amount, and it increases based on meter size for bigger businesses that have 2-inch or 3-inch or 4-inch hookups of water. The sum of all those base rates should be enough to handle the administrative costs of the utilities such as billing. We looked at that. It does actually cover that amount today. So we didn't adjust the base amounts, other than there was a math error on the equivalency factors between a residential meter and the other bigger meters. So we corrected that and put that in the table that's in your ordinance and in the rate study. The second part of the rate is based on flow charge, which is how much do you pay per 1,000 gallons of flow that is treated at the wastewater treatment plant. Currently, that's at $3.09 per 1,000 gallons, and it is going to increase to $5.43 per gallon in order to generate sufficient money so that you can fund your operations going forward, cover all these projects that we've talked about. And real quickly, if we can, walk through the worksheet. You go to the first one. This is the live revenue model, and you can see at the top, it shows the user charge at 0.309 per 100 gallons, which would be $3.09 per 1,000 gallons. And the unmetered residential flat rate at this point in time is $25.66. So if we run that live revenue model across all of your different users and different sizes, the total revenue is $2.998 million. So just a tick under $3 million. If you would skip ahead 2 pages. The second page to this is the other users. I included that data in case you want to read it, but it's a lot of detail that might not interest you.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, we'll put you to sleep. Okay, so here on page 3, we've got the operation and maintenance expenses. Again, these are adjusted, and there's a appendix in the back that will show you what the adjustments are if you're interested to look that up. Big picture here is total operation and maintenance expenses are about $2.6 million based on your $3 million in revenue. So today, under just operations without any capital needs, you are maintaining your system and accumulating additional cash. If you want to skip to page 4. This is your revenue requirement. You have your $2.642 million in operation and maintenance expense. As Gary talked about, the utility was looking at about $500,000 a year for sewer rehabilitation. The precise amount that the utility had in was $482,050. The debt service on estimated lease bonds of $19 million across 20 years would be about $1.63 million. The total revenue requirement's about $4.75 million. We did put an allowance in there for a little bit of miscellaneous revenue like interest earnings. Next page, please. So in order to fund that $4.75 million, we again left the base rates the same, adjusted user charge, and you can see at the top there in the middle, per 100 gallons, it's 0.543, which is $5.43 per 1,000 gallons. Total revenue is the $4.75 million, and the new unmetered residential rate proportionately increased to $39.78. If you skip forward 2 pages, please. So page 7 is just a proof on the base year. It shows that if we were to try and fund the capital needs as well as the operations, bottom line on the left there, we're negative $1.7 million. Under the new rates, we have just enough to cover it with $9,500 to spare. And if you'd go forward 1 more, please. So, of course, whenever we look at rates, everybody wants to know, well, you know, how do we stack up to everyone around us? And we put together for you a comparison of a residential customer with 4,000 gallons of usage. The upper graph is your current rates, your bottom graph are your new rates. So today in Franklin, you spend just under $18 for that service. And then you'll see with Bargersville, Greenwood, Whiteland, Shelbyville, Edinburgh, Trafalgar, where their rates stack up compared to Franklin. And then even after you impose the new rates, which would be up to almost $28, or a little above 27 rather than 18, you're still in the ballpark of, definitely lower than the rest of your surrounding communities. And the others are the appendices. And again, this is the schedule of the adjustments made in 2018 for inflation and the phosphorus requirement. Next page, please. This is the amortization mock-up for $19 million across 20 years. Hopefully, as this fleshes out, the interest cost will be less, so you'll have some additional money that can go toward the lining projects. Next page, please. Whenever we issue revenue bonds, and for those of you that have been involved in the redevelopment commission or on the council long enough to remember the last time, revenue bonds by nature always have to have revenue above and beyond what's going to be required for the principal and interest payments, or security for the bondholders in case there are expenditures that are not expected or revenue decreases that are not expected. The typical standard is at least 125%. What we've done is use that basically $500,000 a year that you'll be accumulating toward relining projects as the security and the debt service coverage. So each year that you don't use that for debt service and you don't need it, it can be sitting here so that you can then contract for a new lining project. But that gets us coverage to approximately 130%. Again, it's not a big number, but that should be sufficient to issue the bonds with the coverage that you need. And then I believe there's one more page. Here's just the summary. Again, treatment, flow charge at 1,000 gallons, $5.43. The unmetered water users on the residential side at $39.78. And your base rates, again, the base rate for residential at 557 has remained the same, but the equivalency factors for the larger meters were corrected slightly from your existing utility rate ordinance, and then the math corrected on the right side for their base rates. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Jeff, I don't know if this is a question for you, but I got it. I know that somewhere down the line we talked about in the future to establish a sewer capacity fee. Is that for you or somebody else?
I can speak to that some.
Why don't you do that and explain that?
Did look at, on the sewer capacity side, and the engineers can give you a better understanding, but from the finance side, you want to have money that comes in whenever these people are making the connections, when they're doing the development, business, residential, whatever. They should pay for part of what's going to maintain and then replace that facility as we go forward. You have fees in place today, and you actually have a good amount of money accumulated there in the fact of, I think it was about $1.7 million in the fund that holds those fees, similar to capacity fees. But you're using some of those for projects that you have today. In looking at the fees compared to other communities, when we looked at the comparison of the rates, you seem to be really undercharging for those connection fees and capacity. So, one of the things we talked about is in the future, you probably want to look at that so that you get a little more in line so that you are bringing those funds in. And again, it helps with people paying their fair share when they come in and tap into a system that you as ratepayers have already built, maintained, and kept at a good level. Somebody shouldn't be able to just come in with no charge and access and share your system. They should have to contribute to that as well, if it's existing.
There is a charge now, however, it's not adequate, you feel like.
Yeah, based on what we've seen so far, I think it is inadequate, and those need to be looked at.
What type of percent increase you thinking about, Jeff?
That I don't know yet. I haven't gotten through the study of that. It's just, it was low in comparison to everybody else that I looked at.
So like the bigger users would pay more than a residential user, is I just look at it. But that doesn't affect this ordinance here.
Correct. That would be a different issue.
Jeff, just a question, or a request of clarification, I guess. You mentioned, this is not a test or anything, I just want to know.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the east side would be funded through a separate bond issue, and then the west side would be through a state revolving fund. Is that like an interim loan until we term it out?
No, at this point, with interest rates as low as they are,
That's what
we would recommend that you do a permanent financing for that
Everything
$5 million project or so on the west side.
on the
Or,
west.
sorry, on the east side.
East side.
Yeah, because that's the one that needs to go now, and you're gonna need bond proceeds before you could get the entire project through the state revolving fund.
So we're looking at separate bond issues here.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify, okay. So we'll have to do this on every bond issue, but that's okay.
Yeah, and we looked at finance charges and savings.
Well,
It would be well worth the time, if you can, with those west side projects and the amounts, to go through the subsidized interest rates of the state revolving fund.
Is that a permanent rate?
Yes.
Okay, that's what my question is, it's not an interim rate.
No, both of these would be permanent, and because of the interest rate environment today, we would want to make them permanent.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I got a question to the mayor on this. Undoubtedly, this is going to eventually get out to the paper, which it should, and we're good about putting that information out. If I get questions about this, I really don't want to talk about it, because they don't want to be asking me, because I'll give them the wrong information. Is there any, I know we're going to have a public hearing, but is there anybody in particular that council people, or they can try to answer it themselves, but I'm not sure I want to.
Internally, Mark Richards, and I know Jeff, people can call Jeff on the finances, and Westwood. I mean, I can answer a lot of it, but of course, these guys are the experts, and I've met with them several times, so I've pretty much got it, but I'm not the expert on it.
Well, as a council member, I've really not gotten too many phone calls, which I thought I'd get a lot, but I expect maybe I'll get a little bit over this one probably.
Mark Richards is good on the technical stuff.
We'll publish his number in the paper.
Just as a reminder though, if you have questions, we need to make sure that we don't meet, so that no more than two of you should discuss this matter outside of the public hearing.
So only two at a time with me also.
Like I said, I'm just not comfortable.
So I just want to end on, my part end on this. You gotta remember, we haven't done this in 16 years, and you gotta remember, we're the lowest in our surrounding area, and I want to say the county, but I won't say our surrounding communities. And we're also going to be the lowest when this is done. And this is for not only the immediate need on the east side, this is also getting to be an immediate need on the west side also. And we, our forefathers did a great job of getting our city in the position it's in now, to be able to do this growth. And for the next, we're setting ourselves up for the next 20 years to do it. And there comes a time that I feel like it has to be done. So I'm not sitting here trying to sell the council on this tonight. I'm just telling you what you've all heard it. Everybody in this room has heard it. This is where we're at for the city of Franklin. Another thing that Franklin does that, that's true, not me.
That was not.
That was. Sorry. All this time I thought it was true. I'm not wrong. Sorry, Rick. So I just want, there's other things that the city of Franklin does. Not only are we the cheapest in our sewer rates, trash pickup. I just saw in the newspaper where we got a community that's getting ready to raise rates for trash pickup. We as taxpayers, we don't charge an extra charge for trash pickup. We do that. Leaf and limb pickup. We do that. Other communities around here don't do that. So I think the city of Franklin has really done an excellent job of making this a livable, affordable place for people to live in the last 20, 40 years. So my hat's off to all of our forefathers that sat here before us and got us in this position, and I know all of us here, we don't want to get us out of that position. So that's just my 2 cents worth. Sorry about that. Does anybody else have any questions for Jeff? You sat down.
Oh, sorry.
I don't really have a question for Jeff, but I appreciate all that, Mr. Mayor, and I understand the need for this, and I appreciate the fact that we're still going to be the cheapest of all the surrounding communities, but the one thing I do have an issue with is this significant hike at one time. I think we should have at least foreseen this a little bit more, and being at the capacity and the urgency that the engineers have described, I think this is something that we should have been doing a while back, and perhaps I'm at fault for that as well. But I just think in the future, I think we should keep an eye out for stuff like this and not get to the state of urgency where we're at, and maybe increase these things a little bit more over time so it's not such a heavy burden on the taxpayers at one fell swoop. That's just my 2 cents.
And I agree with you 100%, and I've thought about that a lot. I've thought about, we should have been doing this maybe all along, but you know what? We didn't need the money all along.
I understand.
So if we would have been taking money that we didn't need, would we still have the money there to spend on what we need for today? Or would we have used it to buy stuff that we shouldn't have? And this way, I feel like we've been running at a tight budget. We didn't need your money, so why take it?
I understand that, but we're also at a place right now where the need is urgent, and I don't like being at that urgent need either.
I understand.
So, just my 2 cents.
So Drew, I've already told the mayor exactly, basically the same thing you mentioned. Not raising a rate for 16 years, it sounds great, but the headlines of the paper is going to be, we're going to raise it 120% or whatever that number is, as an example, regardless of whatever that number is. So,
I think it's about 50%.
Okay, so we're doubling the rate or whatever. So, and I would hope that we would, like I think Drew was kind of heading towards, is that, maybe we police that a little bit better within our ranks, specifically where our leadership ranks, our department heads. So it's a significant chunk of money, an increase to all of our citizens. So, Drew, I'm not opposed to what you said. I pretty much agree with exactly what you said. And I've told the mayor that too, so.
I appreciate not having to pay it over these years. It's 52% increase.
Not on the base rate, though.
No.
That's only on the water, that's only on usage. Correct.
Any other questions, comments, and we'll have more at the public hearing.
There's been a lot, and I appreciate all the work that's been going into that. I've heard this for many years now. It's interesting now to see it. There's a lot of work that's been done here, and I appreciate the presentation as about as clear as you can get it. And thank you for your efforts. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, gentlemen, and we still got some more business to do, so we better get on it. So, the new council members, welcome to City Council.
These are the longest 2 meetings we've had in a long time.
Yeah.
And you guys are here now. What's going on?
So, the next item, request to declare stale dated checks canceled. City Clerk Treasurer Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. Each year, in January, 1st of February, I come forward with a list of checks that have not been cashed for 2 years. The state says that we can put that money back in our accounts. And so this year we have $54,322.52. Normally, it's not near that big. We have a $53,486.60 check that dates back to probably the middle 90s when it all started, and it's from Franklin Cove. We were a pass-through for HUD, the state of Indiana. When they were developing the code, we had the money, we paid the bills, We have this much left over, the 53,000. We have contacted everyone at the state, we've contacted HUD, we've sent letters, we finally got to the point where we sent them a check for the amount, certified. Came back that they got it, the lady called us and she says, we don't know what to do with this money, we have no idea where it needs to go. So therefore, we're putting it back in our pocket. So, we have an excellent paper trail. If they ever do come back and say, hey, we found out where that needs to go, we can write it.
Literally, I checked with Jane about literally the state, this is $53,000 of their money that's probably set in a check somewhere in somebody's drawer for 2 years. Because they don't know where to put it. I told them that we could pick out a place to put it. So,
we're gonna, with your approval, we're going to put all that money back
in our general.
fund.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve.
I move to approve and declare the steel check stated as 2 years canceled.
Second.
Motion, who was the second?
I was.
Chris.
Maybe the city ought to, Jane, maybe the city ought to set aside a $35 sinking fund in case they cash that check and it bounces.
So is there any,
NSFD?
Yeah.
we have a motion and a second, is there any other questions? Hearing none, we're ready for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Next, request approval of encumbrances carried over to 2020. Clerk Treasurer Jane Rhodes.
Okay, as most of you know, at the end of the year, any money that is earmarked that you can go ahead and spend from like the 2019 budget into, you can carry over those encumbrances. And so I do have a few of those that can be carried over. They've done all of our department heads have done all of the correct paperwork. They have to have an invoice by December 31st for me to be able to carry those over to be paid in January.
I'll move for approval of budgetary resolution.
Second.
Motion and second. Mr. Taylor, make it used to your guys' voices. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next is Common Council Budgetary Resolution number 20-01, authorizing a transfer from General Fund 101 to Rainy Day Fund 246 in the amount of $186,212.74. Clerk Treasurer Ms. Rhodes.
Yes, sir. This will be a transfer from the general fund, which would be money that, in the money that was not encumbered, balance from each department that was left can be put back into the rainy day fund. So out of that, we had $700 and some $1,000 that was returned.
May I?
Yeah.
There was actually $886,212.74 returned. And talking with the clerk treasurer's office, we decided to put $186,212.74 in the rainy day fund and leave $700,000 in the general fund. All that does is, if you remember the last couple of years, we've come up with projects, and I've come to the council and laid out the projects, and we've transferred money out of the rainy day. Well, this year, it's still the same process. However, we're looking to, if we leave the $700,000 in the general fund, then if we have projects, then we can still have to ask for permission from the council to appropriate it. It's just not laying there for us to spend. So it's just easier, simpler for the clerk's treasurer's office to do it out of the general fund, not the rainy day. And our hope is this year is not to ask for anything out of the rainy day. I'm not gonna promise it, and we're hoping not to. You know, it's what the rainy day is there for, is emergencies. After the 186,000 that goes back in, we will have latest calculations, $4,576,303.18 in the rainy day fund. So, and the rainy day fund is there for emergencies such as floods, snowstorms, catastrophes, and special projects. So, and there is a set amount that, and I don't know exactly what that set amount is, but if the economy was to turn us out, they like the way you have enough money to run in your rainy day fund to be able to take care of the city to run its budget. So that's why we have the rainy day fund.
I want it noted that the law department's giving back 15 grand. And the law department's back. I think that'll be on record.
So, and I just want to add, all of our department heads has done a great job. And with all reality, last year we went and asked for $700,000 out of the rainy day fund, which we ended up not needing to use it. Some of the projects didn't get done that we planned on that we'll probably end up doing this year. So again, our department heads have done a very good job with their budget, and they continue to do that. I'm amazed at all the department head meetings we have. It's always about trying to save funds where they can. So anyway, I'll be quiet. That's not me. So, is there any other questions about that?
You may take action on this tonight, if you're so pleased.
I move to approve budgetary resolution 20-01, transferring the $186,212.74 from general fund to rainy day.
Second. Again.
Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Taylor.
I'm changing my voice on
I
you.
thought so. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to the last item before we get into comments. Common Council Budgetary Ordinance Number 20-02, authorizing an additional appropriation for the non-tax supported funds for the Treasurer Jane Rhodes.
Yes, sir. This is another housekeeping that we do every January and February. These are our accounts that most likely they're not, well, all of them are non-tax supported, and they're most likely all supported by donations from people. But if we go ahead and appropriate them now, if a department head comes to me and says, hey, you know, we've had this happen and I want to use this amount of money, we can automatically do it without having to have to appropriate. And most of the, probably the department heads can speak best on this, but most of them have restrictions on what and how they can be spent.
And this is something we do every year with the funds too. Some years they're used and some years they're added to, so.
I'll move for the approval of the Common Council Budgetary Ordinance Number 20-02.
Oh, I am sorry, this is a budgetary ordinance, so this is introduction. Oh, it's an ordinance. Jane, you have it.
I would go my motion to don't count.
Thank you.
And I apologize, I should have.
I should have too. Oh, I'm sorry. That'll be on the next agenda. Public hearing.
That'll add to the link for that.
Yeah.
So, okay, so there isn't any other business that gets us to council member comments. However, I want to start with Ms. Rhodes because we have something for the council.
Yes, I need you all to pull out your phones, get your agendas out.
Or write it down.
Or write it down on a piece of paper. Mayor Barnett will be gone in September to Japan. This is going to affect our budgets, our budget time. So he and I spoke last week, so we're going to move it back so that we'll be finished in our normal time and I can get it all sent to the DLGF and everything will be posted. So,
Dave, when you say move it back, we're gonna start the process earlier.
yes,
This is what she needs.
right.
So we have plenty of time.
So our introduction will be August the 17th. So we will probably start, I think Mayor Barnett had said he will most likely start meeting with department head, council people in June. Whereas before, we usually don't start until July. So it'll be August 17th will be the introduction. September 8th, which is on a Tuesday, it will be the Tuesday after Labor Day, we will have a special meeting, budget only. There will not be a Board of Works meeting, it will only be council. And then October 5th will be the approved. So September 8th will be the public hearing. And it'll be 6 o'clock in this, there just will not be a Board of Works meeting.
Okay.
So I appreciate you all being flexible with that, it sure helped us.
Okay, thank you. Jane, anything else?
No, that's all.
Okay. Sean, any comments?
Not that I see.
Okay. Ms. Blankenship?
No comments.
Mr. Ramos?
Yeah, I have a couple things. One, I want to put on record, I was approached by one of my constituents regarding, and I know the Board of Works and the street department have already looked into this a little bit, and there's a right-of-way issue along with some issues regarding who owns what with the county and the city, because it is kind of a buffer area. But there was some issues with regard to safety, pedestrian safety on hospital